It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
This next question is, I don't know if this is French or not. I don't know how to pronounce this.
Oh, this is going to be great then.
But I'm going to call them fee because it's like two different words, or it's F-E. That's French for fee, right? Fee? I don't know. And I can't pronounce the last one. It's a bunch of vowels. So this is the question. Does the 4% rule still apply with predicted lower returns? What is a good conservative percentage? 3? First thing I'd like for you to weigh in on, Brian, is your thought on predicted lower returns. I feel like you just have something to say about that. And then let's talk a little bit about safe withdrawal rates and 4%, and does it work, does it not work, and we'll kind of see where this goes.
Is this a question for Brian or Jean-Brion?
Jean-Brion, that's right.
Okay.
It's French for this is for Jean-Brion.
Okay, so it cracks me up. Predicted lower returns. Guys, I pick on, there's a famous financial organization that every year they set headlines. I call them the Borg. They're all, once you've heard me say this, I'm not going to say their name, but you're going to hear me say this, and then you're going to be on the lookout, and you're going to be like, oh my God, there it is. But every year, I can set my clock to it, they have their head of investments come out, and he goes, over the next decade, you better only expect that your portfolio is going to generate 3 to 4% a year. Oh, been doing this.
They've been saying it for the last decade.
This has probably been the last 5 years, and we just came through 2020, 2021, which had double-digit returns all those years. But yet, this stuff really, I think the financial media loves pushing this stuff out there. So it makes sense that this is seeping into some of the questions we receive. But no, I'm just going to go ahead and no. You don't. The 4% rule does not get adjusted by these crazy predicted lower returns that these analysts and the media has been saying for years. And here's why. And let me give you some good news. It's actually 4+ now, because here's the good news. This was all, when you look at the Trinity study and what the safe withdrawal rate of the 4% rule is that when they did the research on this, they said, has there been a period of time where if you looked at just taking 4% for 30 years? Now, look, I will tell you, if you're FIRE, it's a little different because remember, this is 30 years. And because that's the typical retirement. Somebody was retiring in their 60s, or 50s to 60s, you live to be 80, 90 years old. That's 30 years you're living off of your assets. The 4% rule holds up beautifully. You can even do the 4% with inflation adjustments where it's actually going up with inflation. You can do 4% plus, whatever your account's growing. So you're getting you can do all kind of cool things. But actually the authors, and I'm just not going to throw their names out because I'll screw it all up because I'm going to leave somebody off. But the authors of the Trinity study and the safe withdrawal rate that brought us the original 4% actually came out in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and said the real number now is over 4.5%. Because as long as you're keeping a 50+% equity allocation, it just doesn't get hurt. Now, I think this is great for somebody in their 20s, their 30s, even early 40s to use as a planning tool. But I will tell you, as somebody who gets into your late 40s, 50s, anybody who's getting within 5 to 7 years of retirement, you might be thinking, hey, this Trinity study and the safe withdrawal rate is great, but what if the next 3 years are just horrible? Or the first 3 years of retirement? Because that is something, there is a risk that what happens if you retire right at the beginning of 2008?
It's hard.
What's the terminology? It's the
sequence of return risk.
Sequence of return risk. Thank you. That's why I love having you on the show. Brought you on specifically so you could fill in those type of things. There is. So we encourage anybody who's 5 to 7 years from thinking they might need to live on these assets, you better stress test your plan.
That's right.
It's one thing to do simple napkin math and figure out if the safe withdrawal rate works for you. It's another to go run it through Monte Carlo simulations to actually build in how often are you buying new cars? How often are you traveling? What are some things that could derail your financial plan? All those things come into play, and that's when we encourage people, use the abundance cycle, come learn, apply. use all this free advice, but you are going to reach a level of success. And definitely stress testing your retirement plan is one of those value add things that you ought to consider taking the relationship to the next level.
All right, I'm going to summarize to make sure I got I pulled two things out of that. So I'm just going to kind of synthesize those. The first is markets should not affect your withdrawal rate over the long term. The length of your retirement or length of your financial independence is what affects the withdrawal rate, right? That's what it affects for plus or minus length of the time. Second thing is safe withdrawal rates are used as a metric for modeling and for getting close. But when it actually comes time to retire, there's a different way to approach that to make sure that your dollars can actually last over the long term. Because at certain periods throughout your retirement, you may have a higher withdrawal rate. You may have an 8 or 9% withdrawal rate until a pension starts or until Social Security kicks in or until fill in the blank. So it's different, right? So it's a mechanism to use for modeling, but it's not the mechanism to use the day before you retire. Safe assumption?
Yes. And don't forget Oscar from Sesame Street wants you to know sequence of return risk.
Sequence of return risk. That's right.